We're riding Missouri's 240-mile Katy Trail State Park using cross-state, bike-friendly, twice-daily Amtrak service to support shorter, laid-back segments. See our series intro video for background on using bikes with Amtrak. Here we're discussing the logistics of riding the 39.5 miles from Augusta to the trail's eastern end at Machens, then reaching St. Louis by bike. On this trip, we arrived in Washington by Amtrak, then crossed the Missouri River Valley and rode the trail through Augusta and on to Defiance. The following day, we rode the remaining 32 miles to the trail's end at Machens, then 12.5 miles back to St. Charles. On day 3, since there are no direct public transit or trail connections between St. Charles and downtown St. Louis, we used a combination of designated bike routes, quiet roads, city buses, and light rail to bridge the gap. Washington, Missouri is the nearest Amtrak station to the Katy Trail and Augusta, and has a nice historic district with interesting shops. We particularly recommend a visit to the Gary Lucy Gallery, full of gorgeous artwork depicting Missouri-based natural and historic scenes. But reaching the Katy Trail from the Washington Amtrak station is a bit of an adventure. You'll need to ride some quiet city streets over to the highway bridge across the Missouri River. This bridge at least has a separate bike lane, but just our luck, it was closed on our crossing date, and we had to mix with traffic. Once across the bridge, you'll have to choose between one of two awkward routes across the river valley to reach the trail on the north side. Either ride the shoulder of a busy highway to the northwest, or the rough, dusty, surprisingly busy Augusta Bottom Road to the northeast. See our Augusta to Jefferson City video for more on making this crossing. It's not a bad idea to check road and bridge conditions before a trip. We'll link to some useful resources below. Though tourist-friendly Augusta has a lot of lodging options, on this trip we stayed further east at the Bunkhouse in Defiance. As its name implies, this offers 4 low-cost, minimalist rooms with shared shower and bathroom, perfect for cyclists who just need a place to clean up and sleep. We'd love to see more options like this appear elsewhere along the trail. In contrast, St. Charles can be somewhat pricey, but as there is absolutely no trailside services beyond it to the east, staying somewhere here makes sense. We appreciated the historic setting of the 1840s era Boone's Lick Trail Inn. St. Charles also has a large riverfront park perfect for budget-friendly picnics if you decide not to explore the various nearby restaurants. This segment of the Katy Trail poses the most challenges to using Amtrak for a bike rail loop, as services are often limited and connections between trail and rail aren't ideal at either end. St. Louis has a decent mass transit network overall, but maddeningly, no bus or light rail routes cross the Missouri River between St. Charles and St. Louis. So how did we make a bike-friendly connection? St. Louis's Metrolink light rail service directly serves the downtown Amtrak station, but its closest approach to St. Charles stops at Lambert International Airport, 7 miles from St. Charles, and not a very bike-friendly destination. 2 bus routes extend further west to within several miles of St. Charles, but most of the intervening space is industrial or commercial use that also isn't very bike-friendly. But we found a way! First, we found a bikeable connection to the nearest bus stop. We'll link below to a Google map of the roughly 4-mile route. The Highway 370 bridge on the north end of St. Charles has a separate bike lane that connects to the Katy Trail through a ramp from the North St. Charles trailhead. From the east end of the bridge, you can ride about 2.5 miles along Outer Road 370, Missouri Bottom Road, and then Ferguson Lane, keeping an eye out for trucks. It's not the most attractive route, but it does skirt worse traffic areas, and we planned our ride for a quieter weekend morning. We enjoyed this stretch of trees with lots of urban bird activity. But keep an eye on weather, as this road can flood at times. Ferguson Lane eventually takes you to a nice athletic complex with picnic shelters, bathrooms, and a playground, perfect for passing time while you wait for a bus, the next step on this journey. Right next to the athletic complex is a stop from Metrobus Route 100, which runs 7 days a week. All St. Louis buses have easy-to-use bike racks. The 100 bus will take you directly to the North Hanley Transit Center, where you can catch Metrolink light rail straight into downtown. You can wheel your bikes right onto the train and enjoy being whisked past all the traffic and sprawl. Though we did this from west to east, it would work just as well if we're going from St. Louis out to the trail at St. Charles. Just pay attention to bus schedules and give yourself plenty of time to make the full trip, just in case someone else is using the bus-mounted bike racks. You can also hire a vehicle-based bike shuttle service in St. Charles, but we really enjoyed working out how to make the trip ourselves, and a one-day Metro Pass is very affordable. St. Louis has a lot of bike-friendly trails to explore, from the extensive network in Forest Park, to the Riverfront Trail extending 10 miles up the Mississippi River, to the historic Chain of Rocks Bridge across the Mississippi. Exploring St. Louis by bike is a subject for a different video, but we think it's worth building an extra day or more into any East End Katy Trail trip to enjoy some of these options. When it's time to leave St. Louis, the downtown Amtrak station is directly served by Metrolink Light Rail, making it easy to make the connection. But if you're not familiar with St. Louis, make sure you go to the right place. You may be tempted to go to Union Station, St. Louis's gorgeous historic depot, which is a public attraction but no longer hosts train service. Instead, you need the Gateway Transportation Center, a far less impressive structure buried beneath the highway overpass. While Amtrak's cross-state Missouri River Runner service is officially bike-friendly, it's frustrating that Amtrak only allows 3 bike bookings per train, even though most coaches have 3 bike racks that are often left empty or used for luggage instead. There's a deeper and disappointing backstory to this that's shared in an article from the Missouri Bicycle and Pedestrian Federation that we'll link to below. Several times, Amtrak staff have told us to just stash our bikes in unused corners of the train instead. These trains clearly have the capacity to accommodate far more bikes than officially allowed, but with the official 3 bike limit in the booking system, make sure to check on availability for a given departure when planning a bike rail trip. Be sure to check out this segment's parallel video in our Trailside Geology and Nature series, where we showcase the route's geologic setting, botanical highlights, and more. All our Katy Trail content is now collected in one convenient place on our website, linked below. And if you like this content, we're grateful for any support you can provide, including leaving an easy tip via Ko-fi.